Besides making players and coaches look good, one of MEKYE's jobs is to set up interviews with coaches and players for the Oakland Post. He agreed to do the interview with me because he wanted to tell students interested in public relations what not to do. He said that he loved writing, but he didn't want to become a journalist because he didn't want to have to deal with deadlines. He wanted to supply others with the information and be the one to make people or organizations look good. At the start of his career, MEKYE worked for EDS for OnStar, working in automotive. He said that he absolutely hated it. He left EDS and he went on to work at Eisenbrenner Public Relations, which was a PR agency and was exactly what he wanted to do. He started there as an intern and was hired a year later. He ended up staying for 5 years. It wasn't what he thought it would be like or what he thought he would be doing there. All of his clients were automotive suppliers like DuPont and Michelin. He would have to look at an engineering release and figure out why would somebody want to read about this plastic that DuPont makes to go inside an engine cover that saves GM a bunch of money. One of his tasks was to decipher why thermoplastic was so much better than what everyone else is buying, and then make a release on that. After 5 years, he said, "You've got to be kidding me." He expressed that the worst part was that he was 5 years vested and it wasn't what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. He said that one of the biggest turning points was when he found out that the Silverdome was one of their clients. The head of public relations for the Detroit Lions, MEKYE, came in and talked about what his job entailed about working with the Lions. He said he was sitting there thinking, this has got to be for me. He told me that his mistake was that he should have approached Murray, started volunteering or doing whatever he could to work at games because he was starting from scratch. He ended up sticking it out 2 more years at Eisenbrenner until he finally decided he couldn't do it anymore. He left there in 2003 and said he was starting from scratch at 30 years old. He told me that public relations is so encompassing. He said make sure when you do public relations you pick a field that you want to go into and that what you cover is important. When he got into automotive, he thought he was going to be writing about the next sweet car or the new Mustang. He came to find out that he was only writing about tires and plastics. After his time at Eisenbrenner, MEKYE went to Eastern Michigan University, where he volunteered his time and didn't get paid for 2 years. He picked up a job working at the casino in Detroit, working midnights. He worked during the day for nothing and worked during the night for money. He said those 2 years paid off because his boss at Eastern Michigan University offered him a grad assistant position. It was a 2-year program, but they were going to pay for it. He said, experience is key. If you want to get into sports, it's hard, so take a grad assistant position if there's an opportunity, or take as many internships as possible. Get them done and out of the way when you're young. He left Eastern Michigan because he couldn't become a full-time employee. MEKYE then went on to work at Wayne State University as a communications intern. He then spent 2 years as a sports information assistant at the University of Detroit Mercy as the main communications contact for women's soccer, softball, and men's and women's fencing. He also provided on-site host media relations assistance at the 2009 NCAA Final Four and the 2008 NCAA Midwest Regional, both held at Ford Field in Detroit. During his time working at the Final Four, he got to meet Magic Johnson. He told me that that's the kind of stuff that he really likes to do. He told me that it's very important to know what you want to do and pursue it because he is chasing all of the experience at 30 years old, and there's people coming right out of college. He said, who are you going to hire, a 30-year-old guy or someone coming right out of college? He expressed that if you get there and you don't like it, at least you're young enough to try something new. When you have a job in public relations, he told me you have to have a love for it, and you have to be patient. For a long time, he would become depressed, and he almost gave up. Sometimes he would sleep in his car and get off work at 6 a.m. from the casino since he worked in Detroit, then go to work at Detroit Mercy from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. MEKYE applied at Oakland in the Athletic Communications Department. He said the only reason he is here at Oakland is because last year he was asked to be a grad assistant. He didn't know if he really wanted to go back to class because he has his master's already, but he said this could be his only shot. He took his first grad class, which was a communications class, and he told me he remembers sitting there thinking, is this really going to help me? He said he wouldn't be able to work at Oakland and at the casino on top of taking classes. Then one of his coworkers said that he would get paid just as much as an intern would. He still worked at the casino 4 days a week during the day from 6 a.m. until 2 or 3 p.m. Then he would get to Oakland around 3 p.m. until 7 or 8 p.m. And on game days, he wouldn't get out until around 11 p.m. and took him about an hour to get home. And then he had to be up again at 4 a.m. He said it was very rough. MEKYE took a woman's place after she left Oakland. They gave him the same amount of money that they were giving her. He told me that it worked out, but he still is not technically full-time because he pays for his own benefits. He explained that it was an easy decision to decide between staying at the casino or working at Oakland because the job at Oakland is exactly what he really wants to do right now. Plus, he was getting as much money as he was making at the casino. It was a no-brainer, he said. He added that it's tough being 41 and not having a quote-unquote full-time job. MEKYE says internally everybody is your public because you have your hands on all of the information that is being put out via social media or the website. He says, our office is like the water cooler or Grand Central Station. It's where the gossip is or where the information is, but that's key, so you have to be very careful about what you say, who you're talking to, what needs to be said, and what doesn't need to be said. He says that's what public relations is. Externally, he says that you have to monitor what you're saying or what's getting out because your external public is the news, the free press, or anybody else outside. He mentioned that what makes the job so much harder now is social media because anyone can get on Twitter and say something negative or Facebook or put a picture on Instagram. He explained that social media can either hurt you or it can hinder you. He said that it can really kill your image or kill your culture from the outside, and if something bad comes out from you internally, then that could be a huge detriment. On the flip side, if you have something good like a good story, use the avenues like they do, like social media. He tells the athletes that it's very important how they answer their questions because when they are handing out resumes for jobs in the future, a person might Google their name. Also, he wants them to be careful of what they say during the Grizz Vision reports and stories that are written about them for the Oakland Post. If a writer from the Oakland Post portrays the person well, then the person reading it might say, wow, I like what they had to say about that person, and you might get hired because of that. You can use social media or stories from the Oakland Post that were posted online to build your brand, but be careful because your brand can be torn down in a second. Everything on the Golden Grizzlies website is done by MEKYE and others in the Athletic Communications Department, such as the bios, pictures, videos. All of the information put out via social media or the website is handled by them. They have to make sure that they monitor what the students are saying. He said it's a lot harder with social media because, again, it can either help you or it can hinder you. He does the behind-the-scenes things like getting players ready for games that will be on ESPN3. Everything they write is to prep the players for TV, get the sideline reporter ready, and conduct press conferences after games. He likes to provide information and write information and get the word out there for others to use, which is half the reason why he chose public relations. He mentioned that it's almost like controlling the strings of what goes on opposed to being front and center. He'd much rather be behind the scenes. Students and coaches are his primary and secondary publics. He looks at players and coaches as if they were his clients. It's just like when he worked at a PR firm and had clients of his own. He looks at coaches the same way because they are avenues to get to the student athletes. It's his job to make sure he gets them connected with people from the Oakland Post to do a good interview. He wants them to leave Oakland with a sense of accomplishment and be able to say to their kids, I really enjoyed my 4 years at Oakland, and pass it down the road. If student athletes lose or don't make it to the playoffs and their career is over, then he will do anything he can on the back end to make their experience better. Their secondary publics is the support system and the administration. Athletic communications is a team and makes sure their primary public, student-athletes, have a good experience and look good. If they do a good job for them, then the outside public is the one who will influence how they're doing a good job, which is their main goal. Any way they can reach out to the public about Oakland University and say, hey, we're doing a good thing here, they'll do it. MEKYE is part of an internal-external team at Oakland University. An example is the Thanksgiving Day Parade. They take everything that comes into them, like stories from the Post or pictures, clean them up, and make sure it goes out to the public clean and neat. He also helps create taglines like Where the Bear and Our Story. They have to find collective ways like the taglines to reach the public because Oakland University isn't as large as MSU or U of M, for example. Opposed to the old way of using fax machines, they now use Twitter to get things like the taglines out to the public a lot faster. MEKYE told me that the most rewarding part of his career was when he was offered the position at Oakland. Working in athletics is a lot of long hours and hard work, but he said it's worth it when he sees the students' faces on senior day. He says that his dream job would be doing what American football coach Mike Miller does. The whole ethos is geared upon getting everybody to buy into the culture to collectively, as a department, up the student-athlete experience. Once you do that, that's how you get the blacktop court, that's how you get the fans to come out. That's all secondary. You will get replaced if you don't buy into the culture and love what you do.